Katie Pluma, Group 3. Do you guys think that Owen's style of management would work in today's world, and would Branson's approach work in Owen's times?
I'll start off with Owen's. We have to take into consideration the time in which he was managing, which was a while ago, during the industrialisation, and it was important for him to cater to the needs of his employees, and a lot of them had specific needs, like they didn't have work because of obviously the industrialisation process. So he needed to cater to them in terms of education and schooling for their children, so that both women and men could work at that time. And he provided them with quite a lot of things that were kind of spoon-fed in a way, whereas nowadays I don't think we need to jump to that kind of extreme level, but companies still, nowadays, such as John Lewis and other companies as well, they do provide training for their staff, and they invest time and effort into helping their staff to become managers and progress. I think that is necessary because it motivates them to actually be a part of a company and progress. So I think his style would work nowadays as well, but maybe just not, there's no need for the kind of extreme that he provided.
The other thing was that back when he was managing the mill, it was kind of all oriented around, the community was centered around the mill, so that he did still have control on he could send people to inspect the workers' houses kind of thing, and that just doesn't work in the way that workers work under certain managers. So it was a bit more centralized, I think, than it would be today. But like you said, the kind of ideas behind what he was trying to do is still very much relevant.
Well, in the case of Branson, I think that some aspects will work. For example, motivation, because I think that basically making employees happy will work in any context of time. But Branson usually focuses on delegation, empowerment. He wants creativity in the workforce. And basically, as I've mentioned before, they didn't have the required levels of education. So it would have been quite difficult in order basically to manage these, to make sure that they deliver the required performance. So if we focus on motivation, yes, that will be really successful in any context of time. But delegation matters. I don't think it will be successful in the context of time of Owen.
Did you have a particular view on that, Katie?
No, I think they give really good answers.
Yeah. What did you think about the idea of Owens of doing sort of spot inspections of houses? Do you think that would work in random searches in cleanliness inspections? Do you think that would work in student houses today?
No. And if it did, then there would be bad results.
Yes. Yeah, so it's just as well we don't take that into account on assignments then, isn't it? Okay, so question from Group 2 then, please.
I'm Julia from Group 2. My question is, how do you think Richard Branson kind of adapted his management technique during the financial crisis, or how his management technique really worked in that when it happened?
Well, I think the main thing is that because his employees really believe in him as a leader, I think they're always going to sort of stick by him. Obviously, there will have to be some budget cuts and everything in any business that, during that time. However, I don't think it would have been as much as a problem for Richard Branson, mainly just because I think employees would have been more willing to take maybe a pay cut or something in order to stay with that company, because there aren't many companies like Virgin where you get all the benefits that you receive. So I perhaps think that he'd be able to cut corners in terms of payment without losing his workforce too much.
I may add on to that as well. I think also the fact that because it isn't a very rigid management, so it's quite a loose management system, it allows for more adaptability to the situation. So rather than have lots of bureaucracy and red tape to go through, if a change needs to be made, it's a lot more easier to process it. And also the size of the company, size of Virgin would also have helped. If one section of the business, of his 400 conglomerates, was starting to go under, it could be subsidised from a publisher a bit more successful at the time. So that helped quite a bit for its survival.
I think maybe the diversity in the number of businesses that he has would help in times of recession, because you're always going to get some industries where in recession they may struggle, but that will be counteracted by other industries that he's in which will actually benefit from the recession. It just depends on the type of goods and services that he provides.
Did you have a particular view, Julia?
Not really. I think that he did do quite well during that time. I just wondering.
He's managed to launch his space business,
Yeah.
hasn't he? And the advanced bookings that he's got to pay for it are really quite amazing. But then he's kind of targeting people who have big bonuses at Goldman Sachs to buy Valentine's presents on the space shuttle for their nearest and dearest, which is pretty phenomenal. But there you go, he chases the money, I think. Okay, so group 4, a question please. Who's going to ask a question? Group 4?
I will. Jess from Group 4. Do you think Richard Branson will continue to influence management styles, or do you think he's done all he can?
Well, I think he will continue to basically, because he's really creative, he always tries to basically create new businesses. He always comes up with new ideas. We're seeing that he's actually taking on the new technologies with this new Galaxy company, Virgin Galaxy. So we are seeing that he's adapting to the changes. He's really dynamic. So I think if he continues in these lines, and I'm sure he will continue, well, he's actually going to retire in a long period of time. But I guess that in the time that he has left, he's going to make the most of it. Yeah.
And did you have a view on that? Yes, do you think he'll have the longevity of influence that Rob Tolan has?
I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't be sure to say anything about that, because you just don't know. He is just one of those characters who just keeps surprising everyone. So you could either say yes, definitely, because he's going to surprise everyone, or no, because he's going to retire soon. And
yeah, he was sort of part of a time of celebrity business culture, isn't he? And for Robert Owen to have had the lasting impact that he had, without the benefit of all that media support and self-publicist media activity that Branson has, it'll be interesting to see how and where it goes. But with the space technology and looking at, in particular, how to make money out of being green, I think that will be part of his legacy more than his boisterous showmanness. So, do you have another question? So, name first.
Michael from Group 4. So, I was wondering what are your opinions on the adverse effects of Branson's style of management?
I think one thing which we might say about Virgin is because it doesn't really have the structure to management, it's obviously that structure. So I haven't done too much research into this, but I believe that maybe when something did go wrong with something, you wouldn't have the clear chain of command as to hold it back, or if you had a problem, you'd have to go straight to the top sort of thing, or you'd be expected to come up with the answer yourself. I'm not sure how much it sort of works to support people in that way. So they have the freedom to come up and like adapt and to make their own decisions, but I'm not sure. Maybe if some support might be lost through that structure.
Did you have some views about what the adverse effects might be?
I had two main ones, and you said one of them, that the open-led and creatively focused aspect of it means that if something does go wrong, or it might even be easier for some things to go wrong if people have a bit more control over everything they do, and it might be a problem in how that's handled because there's a slightly flatter hierarchy. And the other one was that as a brand, it's largely based on him, and I think that, for example, if certain things came out about him in regards to his celebrity, then that would affect his business and not just him, because his businesses are so largely based upon him as a celebrity. And I think that's a possible adverse effect.
So if it became known he'd been a child molester, for example.
For example.
Yeah. given the recent scandals that there just have been, so if we're running up past 10 minutes now, we can switch it off. One more